Okay, welcome to this episode where we are going to talk about Hide and Q, TNG's 10th episode, first aired on November 23rd, 1987, and teleplay by C.J. Holland, or was it by C.J. Holland? I'll talk about that later, and by Gene Roddenberry. Story by C.J. Holland, or was it actually DJ Holland? C.J. Holland. Directed by Cliff Ball, in-universe date 41590.5, 2364.
The all-new adventures of Star Trek, The Next Generation.
I was like 3 when this came out.
Well, didn't we cover that last episode? You're 3 for the whole of season 1, I bet.
Yay!
Basically.
Yeah. My God. By the way, the title of this just makes little to no sense. There's no imagination. Like, it's supposed to be like hide and seek, and they've just got hide and Q. And like, but no one's hiding at all in this episode. So I'm just
Right. I didn't actually pick up on that. I wasn't going to talk about the title in my notes.
okay, yeah.
But every Q episode, apart from the Counter at Farpoint, I think has the word Q in it.
Yeah.
I think. We need to check, check that.
It probably does, and it's just this. And again, we're in another Q episode, I guess. Again.
Did you like this episode?
It's alright. It's Q, so I like Q, but I don't know. He seemed a bit more like a child in this episode. I don't know. It's weird.
This to me seems like John Lancie is settled into the role already, and the Q that I see here is the Q that I've seen throughout the rest of Star Trek.
Yeah, it's fair.
So he's got the character down pat, and it's the only thing that saves the episode. It's worth watching because of John Delancey's performance. Everything else is questionable.
Yeah.
But I'm going to list off my good bits, and then you can pick apart any of those, and then we'll see where we go. Are you ready? Because I've got quite a few.
Go.
I have this weird fetish, but I like the fact that we're on a TOS set.
Okay. Oh yeah, I know. I noticed that. Yeah, I noticed. I picked up on the fact.
I like how Worf is played, because this gives me season 3, 4, 5, 7 vibes of Worf.
Okay.
I like the fact that Wesley is confused as fuck as to why, and then he gets brutally murdered. Like, he's a child, and I like the effort they made into the colony set, and of course the sexy Klingon.
Sexy Klingon.
So there's lots of things here actually to enjoy over the last episode. So I'm definitely
sure.
Where would you like to start?
they got like transported to the low budget set.
The lowest of budget sets.
It's like plastic rocks included in everything.
From the beach.
I literally
just
thought like the Gorn monster was going to come out and at some point, but no, they had weird dog type alien things attacking instead. I don't know what the hell they were.
I liked it for the wrong reasons.
Well, because Wesley got murdered.
No. I mean, no. Actually, there's a shot. There's actually many shots where they go long, and usually in these kinds of sets, you know they're sort of claustrophobic because it's a small set. But here, there's a wide, and they're so far away, and I'm like, oh, that's actually interesting, considering it's in a lot somewhere. It's not outdoors, so they're trying to capture some of that maybe instead of
maybe. I think this is the first time we saw Riker do his putting his leg on a rock sort of thing, that pose, that stance that he does.
Oh yeah.
It's like his leg up.
Yeah.
With his crotch pushed out as far as he can get it.
That's right. Isn't it the hussy shot or something?
So like it just switches, just goes to a scene and he's just there like.
But I mean, there's a meme going round where if a woman's legs are open, that means she's available for everybody. But if her legs are closed, then her behaviour is much better. She's not for everybody.
I've not seen that.
So, anything else that you want to respond?
Just the set design, I guess that was, like you say, it was okay, but it was just, again, a throwback. Definitely a throwback.
But we watched the remastered version, so it's even better, actually.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Than the original DVD.
What else did you say? I can't. What else was the other one?
Sexy Klingon,
Sexy
Boy
Klingon.
Genius gets impaled with a bayonet.
Sexy Klingon was interesting because, I don't know, during that scene when they're kind of intimate, in the throes of intimacy, there was some weird music choices behind that. Like it sounded like an Exorcist type music thing was going on instead of sexy music. There was just a weird horror theme behind what was going on.
I didn't pick up on that at all.
And then again, Geordie is just like, that's what sex is to you or something. But like prior to that, like Wesley got his kind of wish of being like 10 years older, even though he looked way older than 10 years older. And then Geordie just goes like, What did he say? He went like sort of like, not bad.
That's with Tasha though.
No, it was both of them. Wesley was like, not bad. And I'm like, bloody hell, Geordie, what are you into?
Aged up boys. And Tasha, of course.
Well, yeah, he looked at Tasha when he got his sight or whatever for a brief moment, but it was just a weird line for him when Thingy got transformed into an older guy.
The reason why I probably didn't catch the music for the Klingon woman, by the way, is because I was staring at her ass, and when she flipped, her bum cheeks actually wobble, and I thought, oh, it's a bit... Not to sound like a prude, because I'm certainly not a prude, but I thought, this is family television. We've just seen Wesley get spiked, bayoneted, and then we see ass cheeks clapping. Like, literally like, la 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 la. Like, when she hits ricochets off the floor, da la 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 la. It's like, okay. So yeah, I didn't. Her bum was making different music. I didn't pick up on what you were listening to.
I saw other things. I saw sounds and heard sounds, and you saw clapping of ass cheeks.
Right, big time. Yeah. So Wesley, come on, we've got to talk about Wesley getting his just desserts.
Yeah, he got impaled, and I think it was a hooray moment for everybody probably watching. But then obviously disappointing when you find out, he's not dead.
But I'll give you a preview of a detail that I noticed. Riker says, I saved most of the awaiting. I'm like, who didn't you rescue? And I was hoping. Why would you use the word most?
Yeah.
Why not just be categorical? I saved the... But anyway, that aside, the horrific nature of Wesley's death is really shocking, because you would normally see that from an 18 movie, maybe like from Deadpool, where he's like holding onto it with his hands and there's blood.
Yeah, quite graphic for, I guess, before like Watershed TV or whatever, and just he gets impaled from behind.
You know, there's a meme where they capture Wesley's face at the point of being bayoneted. He's like, and someone says, well, for those that haven't, it says, "Why does this image give you so much pleasure?"
Poor Wesley.
Indeed, because he just randomly turns up, and so he's included, and so of course, on the second watch, I noticed it, but he's like, "What am I doing here?" So he's clearly confused as a child,
stabbed.
And then he gets stabbed. I can't overstate that enough. He gets bayoneted. And he handles it like a man. I'm telling you, he doesn't scream like a girl. He's like, oh.
Oh my god.
But jokes aside, I am actually shocked that you see him in that level of gory detail, because you don't get that from Worf. I don't know where he sticks it. It's probably where he sticks it, actually, because it doesn't look like he sticks it in his chest. It looks like he sticks it. Worf gets. Like, why not Worf? Why does the child stick folks?
Wow. True.
Colony set, I said I liked.
The what?
The colony set.
Oh yeah, the colony set.
They actually make the effort of, like, let's have some water, little rock pool, and some rocks, and then people would burn rocks.
I was just like, that's just an original series set. Like, what the hell's going on and what are we doing?
There is, to me, a surprising level of effort that they use to make these sets, and I'm just astounding at the details. That's just a personal thing. Considering its time, I'm judging it for its time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a lot of effort. It's just like the rape scene, the Hunter rape gang from Tasha Yar's flashback. That effort, there's probably more effort in her scene actually. But I'm like, whoa, okay, congratulations. Yeah. So the production values, I'm always very happy with. Just the writing at this stage.
I liked the start of the episode. It seemed a bit more serious, a bit more tense with the opening, because they actually have a mission and they're going to a planet that needs medical assistance. So I'm like, okay, it's opening quite serious. The tone is different. This is good. And then Q appears in a weird sort of free snake, really bad effects sort of thing. It's like, what is that?
Look, what a cheesy effect.
Breaks the episode. Breaks the episode completely from that to this, and I'm like, we're back at normal TNG season 1 times.
At least it doesn't feel like 2 episodes, like Encounter at Farpoint did.
No.
There is that. But you do make a great point. The pacing starts off really well, and then when they're talking about Riker having magic powers, the episode slows down so much.
He gives him like Q powers and the sort of thing about using them, and I think Q says something like he wants to understand why humans have the drive to grow as a species, and where no other species he's come across has been like that or something along those lines.
Wow.
That sort of was interesting. Then he sort of gives them all what they want, like, so he gives Riker a lemonade and gives them all different drinks that they wanted. Worf tips his out typically and then throws it away, and then the glass shatter is like super loud.
Do you think that was blood wine or prune juice?
Prune juice, surely.
Q was like trying to get in there before Guinan. This is prune juice, bro.
Again,
gotta try it.
That opens up a load of new questions as well. So if Q can read minds, doesn't that like open up a load of questions like to what he can do?
Right.
So it raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, which doesn't get answered. Are we going to move on to bad things now? Okay. Chink, tell us your good things. Leave a comment down below. Have you noticed the YouTubers, when they have a conversation for 5 minutes and they'll say, guys, what do you think? Leave a comment down below. And then 10 minutes later, guys, what did you think? Leave a comment down below.
Yeah, they do. Leave a comment down below and like and subscribe. Yeah. Like and subscribe.
Guys, drive up the engagement so we get more views for the video.
Ring the notification bell and click the subscribe button so you know when we're putting out a video every single time.
Yeah.
Do it now.
Right, bad bits.
We blew out the hatch. They were all sucked out into space.
Correction, sir. It's sucked out.
You go first.
I was going to mention the set, how it's old. It looks low budget. And you're like, oh, I like that set.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, but I like it for the reasons that you don't like it.
There's not actually a lot I didn't like in this. I mean, Riker having a little bit of a moment where he can use Q powers and get affected by it. Maybe that was a bit out of character for him. Maybe a little bit.
A lot of
but
it.
There wasn't really a lot I didn't like about the episode. I thought it was pretty good. Tasha being put in a penalty box was quite funny because she just started crying on the bridge and Picard's just like, what are you crying for? This was one of the better episodes. Obviously, it's probably because it's a Q episode again. But I like it. It's interesting because when they get to the planet where the medical emergency is finally, they get there and Beverly just shows again why she's like the worst doctor in Starfleet again, because she just abandons this woman she's treating when Riker finds this little girl trapped under the rubble. So she just goes and then goes to the little girl instead. And then Riker's in the dilemma of like, well, I can use my powers to save this girl or not, and that's quite an interesting sort of question.
Just as an aside, you just reminded me of an episode of Voyager where the Doctor goes insane because he can't decide, or he made a decision on who to save. Okay, they have to like reset him until that in the episode where they just let him be and let him like work it out by himself. Here, Dr. Beverly Crusher kind of does that. She's like, but it's an easier choice. It's like, you've got 3rd-degree burns, but she's dead, or she's possibly dead. So I need to go. She makes that choice. So I forgive her for that, actually.
Yeah, sure.
Guys, what do you think? Leave a comment down below.
Leave a comment.
No, the Hunting Box thing is kind of ridiculous because where was all that Starfleet training? She's back on the bridge.
I know, it's like she reverted back to being back on her rape planet and she's
Worse.
out of she's not in control anymore, even though she's like a trained Starfleet security officer.
Right. And Q's never killed anybody. So
no, so it is a bit odd.
Yeah.
It's a bit odd.
And
I like the fact that Picard got just left on the bridge on his own, so he's just there on his own, like
he's kneecapped him.
there's no explanation, and then he does come across Q again, and then they have, I think this is one of the first episodes where they have those classic sort of debates with each other, philosophical debates they always seem to have with each other.
Did you really think it was
what he does.
Philosophical though?
No, but it's the beginnings of them having that sort of rapport and back and forth that they always seem to have in every episode they see with each other.
When they start throwing Shakespeare at each other, like Q loses and he gets upset, and I thought, really, Q? Would you really get upset with an IQ of like 14,000 or something?
I think Picard makes a remark about human species sort of surpassing the continuum at some point, and that seems to upset Q because I think he's sort of worried about that sort of.
The Q can travel through all of space and time. Then effectively, it's like a civilization of Doctor Who's. So they should be able to jump into the future and then be sitting there waiting for the humans to evolve and like, okay, now they surpassed us. They should be, but the TNG never really explores that. The fact that they can go so far into the future, so far into the past, and then they can just see everything.
Yeah, we've only been to the continuum a handful of times, haven't we? In all.
I think there's once.
Lore or whatever.
One time in Voyager they go.
I'm sure. Didn't they go twice in Voyager?
I just remember the long road from getting from here to there.
I know the long road, but then there's the other episode where Janeway goes in. There's a civil war in the continuum, isn't there? She goes in. He takes her back.
Oh yeah, it's like
into that
American Civil War.
2 times.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's a different reality. Yeah. Good spot, good memory. Well, I wasn't really like entertained by the whole philosophy thing because it falls down when you're dealing with Riker, which is one of the worst parts of the show because Riker's turn is just so unbelievable.
I just feel like he's a bit more of a stronger character than that to be sort of tempted by having Q powers.
Right, he's got an air to him where he's like he's basically trying to communicate to the audience, I'm better than you now, I'm more capable, developed than you, I'm a higher form of life form, and yet this is how he treats it. And if you go back to the episode where No Man Has Gone Before, they realise we're not apart from that guy who can put out fire with his minds, they're not prepared to live in that area because they're not developed enough, and they realise that. But in this episode, Riker doesn't realise that, even though he's got the power of the Q. Picard realises that and knows that, like, instantly. Like, you're gonna fuck this up, bro. But here's my trap for you.
Sends into the planet anyway. Like, just go.
Right. There's just so many things where I'm sure another draft they could have made this a lot more subtle in his performance, Jonathan Frakes' performance. I mean, because he falls down here. The bit where he's like laughing. The second time I accepted it because he's laughing at Q, and I thought he was just laughing because he was drunk on power. And then the other time where he's like this, but he was panicking, so he was like going whoa, whoa, throwing everybody back onto the Enterprise, and then the next shot it's too contrasty. What else was abrupt? There you go. That's the word. That's sort of like TOS level acting. To me, it was anyway. I'm reminded of Charlie Kirk. Do you remember Charlie Kirk? The one who controls people's minds, and he goes.
Oh no! Okay.
Fucking creepy as fuck. No. Okay, it's first season. Right.
Okay.
He has powers basically. It's similar to this episode, and he gets taken away at the end of the episode because he can't develop. He can't look after his powers. Or handle his powers. Sorry.
Okay.
Damn.
Yeah.
I didn't realise how close. Oh, there's another one where they find like a Q-type creature on another planet, and he's fucking around with them in a medieval dungeon, and in the end he gets taken away as well because they realise he's like a child. Elaine. I can't remember his name. People, if you're watching, leave a comment down below.
Let us know.
Something that rhymes with rain, and I'm not looking it up, but he was sort of like the not the fetus. I can't remember. I can't think of words. Can not speak. Act like William Shatner. He was the original sort of template with which Q comes from.
It just seemed weird. It just seemed out of character, and just for someone to be who's a strong-minded individual to be sort of tempted by powers and stuff so quickly, just seems a bit far-fetched. It just seemed to just serve the episode. To have it serve the episode to go in this direction.
My notes here just says his change of personality is like getting hit on the head with a rock.
I mean, you could say that maybe it's because of the powers and divine sort of stuff that came over him, and he doesn't know how to handle it. So this is the only way his character sort of was corrupted a little bit. But I'm just stretching it a little bit there for your own sort of.
It's a shame that Picard didn't use Shakespeare on Riker.
Again, though, Picard just seems he's still trying to figure out who Picard is at this point. Patrick Stewart, so he's still angry Captain Picard still.
Kind of. A little bit of compassion for Tasha though.
Yeah, a little bit there. There was a little bit peeking through of what he's going to become.
Do you know, it reminds me, when they're quoting Shakespeare, one of those quotes is what got me blocked by Terry Metalis, where Q says something like, all the fury, and basically you've said nothing.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Now, something you keep saying, and you haven't said it yet, so I'll say it for you, is that the episode just ends. They just take Q away. And I fucking hated that, because, why? How does Picard even know he's going to do it? Oh, well, you've upset your masters now. How?
Yeah.
And then he gets pushed.
It happens all the time.
Why did the Q care?
Yeah, surely they don't care what Q's getting up to. They don't give a crap. They're sort of omnipotent and the board or whatever. Well, that's from what I know of them.
And Q steals a line from Steve Jobs. He says, "One more thing." Like, nope. They take him away.
Yeah, very, very odd.
But it's kind of annoying because that means that the Q reset everything, but they don't tell you that they reset Riker's mortality. They don't tell you. The episode doesn't tell you if he still has his powers or not.
Oh no, yeah, you're just left wondering. I mean, he could still have his powers for you.
Yeah,
know. He's
that's
like,
how
whatever.
annoying it is. Because even then he says, "Have you laid in the coordinates?" And he's like, "Geordie, you've got my coordinates." It's like, did he put them there with his Q powers? Because you didn't see him touch the computer. It's never continued again.
I have nothing else to really say about this episode, really. Do you?
Loads
have
more,
loads?
yeah. For example, do you remember the episode where Barclay gets super intelligent? Because the Cytherians want him to take the Enterprise to their part of the galaxy, right? And at the end of the episode, he wins that chess game. Oh no, he says, "Oh, you're going to get mate in like 3 moves or something." And then Troy says, "I didn't know you played chess." And he's like, "But I don't." And it's sort of like saying he might have a little residual energy from having super intelligence. At least that episode sort of like explains something. Or
oh, this was the first episode, I think, where Troy wasn't in this episode.
Yeah, they oofed her off.
Yeah. It looked like she was going to get the sack or something.
Well, this episode is actually one of the 2 or 3 where she's not in it, and then she's saying, "Am I going to be fired?"
Oh,
yeah, they just didn't use her. I don't think you need her in this episode anyway. I could sense Riker is being a dick.
We know.
Since Picard has a plan, and it's just gonna come out of his sleeve any minute now. As soon as Wesley rejects his fucking 10-year upgrade.
He looked way older than 10
Didn't
years
even
old.
look like Wesley. Have you seen Wesley now? Why not keep his voice? Why not have the actor's voice? Why are we keeping the pre-pubescent voice?
I know, that was really a strange choice.
Unless, one of those singers, you know those special choir altos, unless he was castrated like an alto.
Maybe, you don't know. Yeah, he's
just got the brawn.
I just can't get over the fact he's just like, not bad. It's just like, no, Geordie, What? I bet Riker was just like, well, I don't even know what you want anymore.
Is Adam gay bashing right now? Please leave a comment down in the chat. We want to hear from you.
I'm not gay bashing. I'm just saying Geordie was right. Not bad.
Okay, let me quickly run through the rest of my bad bits.
That's before he couldn't see. He couldn't see at this point.
Tasha explaining her love for Picard, apart from being emotional. It's like, where the fuck did that come from?
That was weird.
Tasha's makeup. She's literally got a grey face while she's in the penalty box. Like, there's grey
Yeah, she
patches.
did, didn't she? That was very odd.
And you can see it change in different cuts where they film things out of sequence.
Yeah.
So that was weird. It says here, what was the delay with shooting the creatures? Oh yeah, so Riker is told, you can save them. Riker, you've got the power of the Q. And the action is moving so slowly that they can actually just save themselves with their own phasers. Worf has a phaser, Tasha has a phaser, so you can just it's poorly paced. I didn't appreciate that. If there was if there was 100 of those pig creatures all firing, and then I could understand because they're being overwhelmed. But there's like the same six actors just on repeat. So I didn't like that as an attention to really motivating Riker to save people, because he kills two like that's it straight away. I didn't like how Riker, I said this before, but I didn't like how he was doing this. He looked like a hot hand job, just like, look how great I am. I didn't like that. Yeah, I wanted a scene. So actually, this is not fair. So this should be a detail really, but I wanted a scene from the episode where Riker is in his bedroom playing with his powers. Like, what can I do? Turn myself into a fish? Turn myself into an eel? 2 dicks? 3 Troys? A menage a Troy, a real one this time. Like, play with your powers, and he didn't. Make fire, make ice. Just
it was weird because like he just knew how to use his powers from the get go, so that was a bit odd.
Right.
Yeah, maybe that scene would have helped.
Because he leaves, doesn't he? He says, "I want a meeting with you all," and he fucks off, and then he comes back, and I'm thinking, okay, that would have been the missing scene that this episode needed a little bit to like sit there and just go. Just play with all sorts.
Yeah.
Imagine if he's got the power of the Q, he could have explored all of space and time and then come back to the exact moment to then say, well, this is why I'm so cocky, and I know if I give you everything that you want, but give all the guys what you want, not the women, the guys, then
he's just like, I know everything now, complete space. I'll see you back at Earth.
Oh, it leaves a lot to the imagination.
I've seen the terrible TNG movies we're going to do in the future, so that's just not.
I've seen how Picard dies and then comes back as an android. I've seen the alternative canon. So you win this one, Picard, but I've seen your fate. Fuck you. But he could have done, couldn't he? That's the problem. This episode overall feels very limited in its scope. It's just like, okay, you've got powers. You didn't save the Asian kid. Boo-hoo. I'm going to make Wesley a man. Oh, you don't want it? Okay, I lost. Come on.
I think any Q episode could be stretched into a two episode thing, because there's too much to sort of explore with Q and stuff, because they can just do anything and go anywhere. So
yeah,
more time is needed with these sort of episodes.
I totally agree. Okay, those are mine and Adam's good and bad things. Now we're going to talk about details, little details, nitpicks, but I just want to call them details from now on.
Oh, no!
And I actually have more details than bad things to talk about. So I'll try and speed through it.
Details?
I'll try and speed through it, but...
Just speed round right now.
Are you ready? Okay.
Go.
Worf jumps to defend Captain Picard before Tasha does, and he gets his phaser out, and the way Tasha is then behind Worf, but her phaser is pointed at the back of Worf's head. How does Tasha know she's in the penalty box? Because they talk about the penalty box after she gets beamed away. You can hear the echo of their voices on the wooden bridge. Like, the sound is not full. The wooden floorboard sound is gone, but the sound production needs tweaking. I didn't understand the excitement with Worf reaching the third ridge. Like, what's special? Geordie says, "Oh, he's at the third ridge," when the Data's like, "Oh, what the fuck? What?" What?
What does that mean?
Because
What
Worf
does
was
it
scouting
mean?
ahead. And he says he's at the third ridge
right,
already.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're just like, whoa.
Do you know what I thought you meant? I thought you meant the fucking ridges of her head or something.
Oh man, isn't that racist to get those things confused or some shit?
Oh.
Ridges with ridges.
That's funny. Is it? What? I'm
Yeah,
being
racist
Klingon
against
racist.
I'm sure. I'm sure in about 5 years'
Yeah.
time, it will be racist to be racist against non-existing entities. Depends
Yeah.
how far left the left go. And why does Worf need to do that? But it reminded me of those old. How can I explain it? There used to be some old games on the NES or the SNES where you could reach a certain distance, and if you didn't go far enough, you could see what the enemy was doing. And then just pace backwards and forwards,
okay.
and then when you move into that zone, then the AI would, or the machine would then react to your little character. And it just reminded me of that. It's weird detail, but it just reminded me of like, why are they getting ready? Why have they got a camp? Why do they have all that? They can just spawn out of nowhere and just keep coming. So it just gave me this weird throwback to it. And see, when Tasha is sitting at the com, you can see black paper on the computer screens at the back of the bridge. And they did that many times, and I thought that they removed it in the Blu-ray version, but they did that for white balancing because those screens are so reflective. They're basically IMAX screens. The studio lights kept reflecting, so you have to hide it. So they put black paper there. And then back in the day, you wouldn't see that because the resolution was so small. You wouldn't see that black paper. But in the Blu-rays, you can see A4 cutouts or A3 cutouts.
I think I read about that somewhere.
Now, I wouldn't normally mention it because sometimes there's a person hiding in front of it, because they're in front of it. But here it's obvious, and the camera stays there. So I would have thought that would have been removed in the Blu-ray book. So the Asian kid is under that pile of rubble, right? Data goes over and starts picking up the biggest fucking rocks and just throwing them like candy. Geordie picks up a fucking handful. The size of an apple mouse. Just he is helping. It's just that I just thought it was fucking hilarious. I agree with you. Geordie is eyeing up Tasha. Like that's the only thing he can say.
It's weird that because he just comes out. Like, this has been not mentioned at all, I don't think. But Geordie just sort of looks at her in like a lovingly sort of like, "Oh, look at you." But before that, makes the comment about Wesley. So I have no idea where his sexual intentions are lying right now. I don't know. Geordie is a mystery right now to me.
And he will always be a mystery because his love life is ridiculous on TNG. That he always messes up the relationships, and he has family off camera. That's how it's resolved. My last thing, which is the detail, and then we can move on to other things, is Riker's chest hair. He's the only person who shows chest hair right here. He's got curly black hair here. And I keep wanting to mention it in all the other episodes because I can see it and I forgot. So now I'm finally mentioning it. Guys, do you think it was worth mentioning? Leave a comment down below. But no one else has the chest hair. And I'm just wondering why they leave his there. Is it because he needs to exude masculinity or something?
He does. He is a sexual beast.
I don't get it. But it really throws me out.
Amplified by his chest hair.
There's a thing in photography called a punctum. I think I mentioned this to you before. But basically, if you ever look at a photo and it seems more real because of one interesting detail, then that's what it is. That's the punctum. And to me, Riker just looks more real because I can see his chest hair. But it can be anything. It can be like whitehead, blackheads on a nose. It can just be anything in any photo. But if you take that as a still image, his chest hair just makes it more real, and I'm like, oh, this is an actor, not a character now.
If nothing else, I have learnt a new word today and what it means.
I'll spell it for you later. I'll leave it in the show description. I have 2 memorable quotes.
If you know what my memorable quote is, I've said it like about 3 times.
What was it?
It was just like, not bad.
Oh. Picard says to Riker, "Quite right, so you should." Riker feels like he's stupid, do you remember? Picard is so certain of himself.
He's so strict, man. He's so fucking stern.
Yeah.
Everything he says is so sharp and cutting.
Right, but he's outwitted Q and Riker Q. So he deserves it. He's got them both. And the other one is when Q actually says, "Oh, your species is always suffering and dying. Don't give a fuck." He's actually right.
I'm sure that's not the first time you've said that as well. I'm sure he said it in other episodes.
I mentioned at the top of the episode that this episode was written by CJ Holland, and it actually wasn't. That was Maurice Hurley's pseudonym, because he was so disappointed with the way this episode came out that he used his alternative handle. Have you noticed that quite a few people have done it already in these 10 episodes?
No, you can't just do that. You can't be just you stick your name down and stick to it.
There's partially a good reason for it, and two of the first fun facts are about Maurice Hurley. So this episode was written twice. First time by Maurice Hurley. This was his first assignment. So he's just started. He's just been hired, but I think it was by Gene Roddenberry's lawyer for some reason. I can't remember why. But Gene was so upset, he ignored Hurley as they passed the corridor every day, and they pass in the corridor like 4 or 5 times a day because they have to work together. He ignores it, right? And then Roddenberry rewrote it himself. And honestly, it makes me wonder like how bad the first draft was, because even this wasn't exactly, a well-polished boots, was it?
Well, we don't know how much he rewrote. You know what I mean?
Probably just threw in the Shakespeare. Who knows?
Maybe, yeah.
The Memory Alpha doesn't say what the original concept for this episode was.
He just added in the old set. He was like, "We'll throw in that set. That's where they're going to be transported to."
And let me just park the other Hurley fact for a moment and jump to fact 4. There's a novel Q&A that establishes that Q was sent by the Continuum to give Picard the powers. But he disregarded the collective and gave it to Riker. That's why the Q are probably upset in this episode.
Okay.
You need to not indoctrinate Picard, but you need to compromise Picard, not Riker.
Okay.
Possibly. So, Hurley again. So this is the first time he's on the show, but he's the guy who creates the Borg. He invents it as the one unstoppable enemy for the Federation to deal with. That was his plan in season 2, and then it changes because they change the Borg because Maurice Hurley leaves at the end of season 2, and that's why Gates McFadden comes back. Her and Maurice didn't get on, so that's why she's not in season 2. It's Dr. Pulaski.
Right. Okay.
So,
okay.
now you know. This guy has certainly an effect on TNG.
Does that's the oldest Doctor, isn't it?
Yeah, who's like Bones from TOS basically.
She doesn't fit the mould of this at all. I feel like she's completely out of place in this whole.
A lot of people don't like her, and
Yeah.
I can see how, but she's not actually that bad. She's a pretty decent character. When you pay attention, instead of just like, oh, she's not beautiful, she's not pretty, whatever.
It's not that. It just feels out of place, and it's just her scenes just don't mesh well with the other crew members. She doesn't feel part of it. There's no rapport, or it just feels a bit forced sometimes, like how they had dinner in one scene in, I think it was Riker's quarters, and it just the scrambled egg thing, and it just feels forced, and it just feels she shouldn't mesh well with the cast.
She's new, isn't she, to the cast?
Yeah,
that's all. The others have had a year to settle in. But it's interesting that in that episode where they introduce her, they do say that Beverly Crusher is taking a sabbatical. So it's not like they intentionally left the door open for her, but they wrote it in such a way that they could actually leave the door open for her, because Maurice Hurley wasn't planning on leaving at the end of season 2. Let's have a look here. The next one, the illusionary female seen in this episode is both the first Klingon besides Worf and the first female Klingon to appear in TNG. This episode marks the first appearance of LeVar Burton without the visor or contact lenses. The second is in the 4th season episode Future Imperfect, and then the third is the last in season 7 called Interface. That's the one where his mum dies and he's in the VR suit. It's really shit. Did you notice that Q is wearing 3 pips when he's talking to Riker.
I do pay attention to sometimes when he's wearing the Starfleet uniforms, because he does always give himself a high rank.
Yeah.
But this one was like, okay, yeah.
The Memory Alpha doesn't say this, but I say this. I felt that he went down to three pips because he's trying to relate to Riker.
Yeah.
I could be reading into it too much, but that's how I saw it. Because when he becomes Data, he's just Data. But here, he's trying to talk to him as Commander, not above him, show that he's equal. So I like that. Faith Minton played the sexy Klingon, and she got no credit for her appearance. All that growling and all those butt cheek clapping, no credit. She was
all that work.
She was a stunt woman for various TV shows and movies, so I'm giving her credit now in my memorable facts, in my fun facts. The most famous movies and TV shows: Smokey and the Bandit 3, Miss Congeniality 2, Armed and Fabulous, Knight Rider, and Murder, She Wrote. She was 31 when she featured in this episode, and now she's 67. So there we go. Shout out to Faith Minton.
Oh, yes. Let's go. Let's go.
Summary time.
Ada, how can we best go about it?
This episode's okay. I kind of liked it for as we talked, John Delancey's performance, and obviously I bring my own when I interpret this episode. I don't feel that the topic of godhood is adequately explored. There's not really any details that I can glean from this, but it's also something that we could never relate to anyway. What would it be like if I was a god? I mean, I'm a god to these little guys, but it's not the same feeling. I want to feel like a god to everybody out in the world, my fellow humans. And this episode doesn't help me whatsoever, and it's drawn out. Could have been nice if we got a sequence of the gifts, better gifts, because they don't give gifts to the women for some reason. No Tasha and Beverly. I don't get that. And just as much as they don't talk about him having the powers or really utilising them, they also just take them away at the end of the episode. So it's so rough with what it's trying to...
Felt like the pacing at the start was a lot better. It just felt like a bit more serious at the start, and then it sort of branches off into this weird, Riker's going to be having these Q powers, doesn't really do a whole bunch with them.
But thematically,
and
what do you think of the theme? The theme of like, what is it like to have god powers? Like, anything to add to that?
I mean, it's not really explored a lot in this. It's just Riker seems out of character, and he doesn't really use them that much, and it's just there's a great idea in here, but then they don't explore enough with it to even make it very interesting. It's just very middle of the road. Q gets involved, there's some shenanigans, and then the episode just ends. There's no character development as such in this, really.
Yeah.
It's just everyone seems the same, and it just seems to be like another throwaway episode, but just a little bit better than what's come before, and maybe it could be on the road to something a little bit better down the way, but at the moment it's just meh. And this could have been a two-parter if they stretched it out more and explored different ideas of what it's like to be a god and what it's like to have Q powers. Having a human being thrust Q powers onto them, and what would they do, and what shenanigans they get up to, and testing the limitations of what you can do when you have these unlimited powers, basically. But it's never explored, and it's never there's no questions asked or anything like that, and Riker just seems completely out of character, and then just folds his arms a lot and just doesn't do anything with it, and then acts like a bit of a dick for many scenes. It's just it's
Have
okay.
you seen the TOS episode? It's the first one with Kirk, and they go to the edge of the galaxy.
Right.
And Gary Mitchell
Yeah.
gets the silver eyes, and he becomes a god. And then Kirk has to fight him. He has to fight a god. Okay.
To fight a god, but Kirk wins.
No, of course, Kirk wins. That's his MO, isn't it? But that episode, even though it's much older, that does more to sort of give you consideration to think about what it would be like to be a god, rather than this episode.
Yeah.
This one is like a pale imitation.
it's weird when you say we've said like there's not two plots, but there is. There's the obviously the Q thing, and then in the background you've got we've still got to go to the planet and deal with the medical emergency, and then they do, and then not much is done there. They just sort of beam down into a hole.
What could you do with
they
that?
find some survivors, and then that's it.
Yeah, you know, actually, I said, what can you do with it? And then I just thought of an idea. Riker could have rebuilt the colony.
Well, yeah, there's
And
loads of things.
You could
yeah.
get the people to react to him, like, oh my god, it's Jesus! Jesus has returned, or whatever. Right? Yeah, you could do on a sort of on a societal level. How would they react to a godlike Federation officer?
Yeah, and then there could have been a statue. With them like this,
Yeah. Could you fit it into one? I'm not sure about two, but there is definitely more on the meat on the bone in this episode.
Yeah, there could have been a lot more. So again, it's a bit better, but it's frustrating because there's good ideas there, but just not implemented very well. And you're kind of like,
Or not even considered.
yeah, not even considered. You got to wonder what happens in the writing room, and just like, well, that'll do. Next episode.
This is what happens when Gene Roddenberry doesn't talk to the fucking writer.
He just wants like sex and people half naked and men wearing skirts. Which I'm still for. Like, let's bring the skirt wearing men back. Let's do it. Bring those uniforms back into more new Trek. Let's go. Let's do it.